Troy seconded the motion. Is that correct, Troy?
Glenn seconded the motion.
Glenn seconded the motion.
Gotcha.
And then the rest of us said aye.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are still
Okay,
legal.
it's now thank you. It's now 6 p.m. I'm calling the special called meeting tonight to order, July the 22nd, 6 p.m. We need to have an approval of the agenda as submitted. Can we have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda as submitted.
Second.
And was that Glenn that seconded?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Fantastic. Now we're under presentations. And of course, we always go with the board comments. This is a chance for the board members to talk a little bit about the Danville schools or what's been going on. So Wade, would you like to start? You're on mute, by the way.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Hello to everyone. Yes, I don't have a whole lot of comments at this particular time, but I did just want to give some kudos out to Dr. McDonald and her staff for all of the work that they've put in to make a lot of these things happen. Because a lot of work is behind the scenes. You don't really get to see it, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things. And so I just wanted to just take 30 seconds, just to kind of give them a good old attaboy, as we would do in Mississippi, and give them a good pat on the back, just for the things that they have done up to this point.
Thanks, Wade. Anybody else, Lori?
I just, again, we had a really good work session meeting before this that lasted most of the day at Gravely Hall, and we met in person, and I thought that was a very productive day, and thank Dr. McDonald and all the staff for working on that. It was our first meeting back in person, but also thankful to this board for being able to be flexible this time. I wanted to say, it's been a shocking week for my family in particular. My son had a friend and whose brother was randomly tested positive for COVID. So my son is on isolation. I'm not on isolation, but my son is. And so to be safe, I wanted to do this, but it was a true factor. This child is one of our Danville students, and he is completely asymptomatic. His family took him in randomly to get tested, and they all tested negative, but the little boy tested positive. So it's just proving. And so now all my son's friends are on lockdown and isolation for 2 weeks, but it's just proving how, prevalent this may be in our society, and how it's going to affect, children. I'm so thankful this family's safe, and the health department in Danville has been lovely, but I just want to just share that, thankful to this board for going online for this meeting so that I could attend. So thank you.
Well, of course, you're welcome. Troy?
I just want to say that I want everybody to please keep the Vince Tucker family in your minds and in your prayers. That was a loss to the Danville family, so please keep them in mind, and just send your condolences to them.
Thank you. Glenn, do you have anything?
Everybody just stay safe and be cautious and be aware of who you're around and where you are. Be careful and be blessed.
Thank you, sir. I'm kind of like all of us. Unfortunately, our family's known two folks that have died from COVID. It's been very upsetting. They were the first ones to say that it's not a big deal, but it took their lives. So we've been dealing with that, and of course their families are in our prayers. So this thing is for real. I have a wonderful little granddaughter, 8 years old, that has major respiratory issues. Her mom is a teacher, And the last thing she wants her daughter is to be in an unsafe situation. And I have to agree. So things are tough right now, and we're just going to have to get through this as best we can. And we need folks to realize that we are not perfect. We don't have all the answers, and there might be decisions made that folks don't agree with, but we all have to be on board realizing that it's safety first. And honestly, it's not just our kids. We have bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our maintenance folks, our teachers, our administrators, that all are, as I call, frontline folks that are right there. And we just have to realize that it's not just our children, it's everyone involved in educating our children. So I do want you all to hang in there with us. Who knows what's going to happen in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So anyways, thank you all very much for your comments. Dr. McDonald?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I have a few comments. One, just for the board, my calendar is attached in e-meeting under the superintendent comments for you to view. And then I have an update on the anchor. As some of you remember, we had a very large anchor donated by the Navy, no cost to the district. And we have community members led by Chuck Stallard who are working on this anchor for us. So no cost to the district, no time on any district employees. These community members have just graciously taken it upon themselves to do this really wonderful thing for our school system. And so I'm just going to read his update that he sent to me in a text message this week. He said, good news. And this is from Chuck Stallard, by the way. Good news, I have secured the resources to prep, prime, and paint the anchor, including the labor and materials. We plan to get that done in the next 4 to 6 weeks. David Baston with Baston Painting is providing this service free of charge. So a big thank you to David Baston, Chuck Stallard, and all of the other community members that are working with them to do that for our school system. So kudos to them and a big thank you. Just a couple of updates on some of the planning around instruction for the upcoming school year. Mrs. Satterley, who is our Chief Academic Officer, is leading a teaching and learning committee. They're working very hard to identify instructional gaps from this last year for our students. They're setting guidelines for all our instructional models, but specifically they're focusing on making the virtual learning as seamless and consistent as possible with any face-to-face instruction. Developing two schools, if you think about a virtual school or a physical school, developing two schools, one virtual and one online, is not too difficult in itself, but when you're trying to develop two that provide identical instructional opportunities for all students is extremely difficult. And that's what we've been trying to do as we've been moving forward. Mrs. Satterley and her team have been working very hard. We do have representatives from all of our schools that have been working on this committee. They've been meeting twice a week and they're compiling guidance documents for students, teachers, and parents. And one of the important pieces of work that they have been doing that I wanted to make sure I pointed out is that they are creating tutorials for parents on technology. So maybe if a parent has not used or has experience with an iPad, and our kindergarten and first graders will be using iPads, then the parent can watch these tutorials and it can help guide them and navigate them through a new piece of technology maybe that they've not been using in the past. So those resources for parents are under development as well as the resources for our students. Danville is also creating an advisory committee to address diversity and equity in education. The committee will be titled Danville Diversity and Equity Advisory Council. This group will be co-chaired by board member, Mr. Wade Stanfield, and Sherry Satterley from here at the central office, our assistant superintendent. There will be some opportunities for them to make comments later in the agenda. I know that Mrs. Satterley has already been working on kind of some thoughts and comprising the committee. And I know Mr. Stanfield also has quite a few ideas, and they're going to be working together on this advisory council to really help improve the Danville schools. The staff at Hogsett Primary have applied for a grant through State Farm that they have. This is all the staff at Hogsett Primary that they have called Hogsett Primary Community Anti-Racist Education in Schools, or Hogsett CARES. So it's the acronym CARES. This grant would not only provide instructional materials for students and PD for staff, but also educational opportunities for the community. And our fingers are crossed. And I know that Mrs. Farmer is pretty excited about that grant, and she submitted it at the end of last week. I also want to just take a second and give a shout out for our custodians and our maintenance crew for ensuring the safety of our staff as we're working on planning for the school year. The level of cleaning, construction, for example, providing barriers in certain areas to protect faculty, adding additional hand sanitizing stations and paper towels and cleaning materials throughout the schools has been a pretty heavy lift, and they have done everything amazingly without any complaints. So I want to say thank you and a shout out to those two groups for all the work that they've done. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. McDonald. That was a great report. It's exciting all around. It's amazing how many people have not forgotten the anchor, and actually we're wondering where we were on that now that we have a great report. And we have to thank Mr. Baston for his kind donation of materials and labor and all that it takes to do that. So David, thank you. Kudos to you, and also Chuck Stout and staff, his group. Okay, next on the agenda is we need to approve the, no, we're going to go down. I want everybody to notice on 3E, which is 2019-20 school year activity fund donation notification. It's not anything that we need to vote on. It's just something to make you all aware of folks that have been, through their kindness and generosity, have given to several of our programs throughout the year. So, Mrs. Osborne, thank you for that report. It's very gratifying.
Mr. Baker, I think that you skipped 3C. Could you jump back to 3C, the United for Change presentation?
Oh, I did. Ladies, I am so sorry about that. Let's go to 3C. The United for Change presentation. I am really excited you guys are here. So if you all would like to, who wants to start?
It'll probably be just me, Cheryl
Okay.
Burton. Hello, thank you all for giving us this opportunity. We truly appreciate it. For those that don't know me, I'm Cheryl Burton. I'm a 1993 graduate of Danville High School, and my daughter is a 2012 graduate of Danville High School, and all my siblings are graduates of Danville. So I have a very special place for Danville schools in my heart, and want the best for Danville schools. And I've seen a lot of changes, good and bad, over the years. And with everything going on in our country right now, I thought, once we got everything going, this is a good time to try to get some systemic things worked out in the school systems, and bring those to the forefront of everyone's attention. I think everyone has a copy of the demands we sent to you all. Does everyone have those? Okay. And thank you all, Mr. Wade and Ms. Satterley, for taking the initiative to start the advisory committee. Kudos to you all. Appreciate that. Wonderful. We just want to work. We want to be partners with you all. We want to help you all any way we can. If we can advocate for something with the community to get you funding for something or extra programs or whatever, that's what we're here for. We're not here to divide us or anything. We just want to be there to assist you all if you may need it in any way we can. So the first one is annual unconscious bias training for all educators and staff. That's something we would like for you all to look into. I know COVID's making things difficult. We get that, but that's something we think that is needed in the school system for the educators and the staff. The next one is social studies history classes. We would like to see more diverse social studies history classes taught. So because I know I can speak from my experience in the school system, the only history class I had was around Martin Luther King, and that was during Black History Month in February. We feel that there needs to be something that's all year long that every student has to have upon graduation from the school system. And I don't know who you need to speak to about your curriculum for that, but that's what we're hoping to see. Creation of summer enrichment programs for marginalized youth with this the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math education approach. And I think you all have that. Is that correct? Okay, so I'll check that off, because after I had got these together, somebody had told me y'all had that, so that's fine.
Yeah, we do, of course, with COVID this year, we were unable to do that, but Danville has had that program for several years. So Ms. Satterley and I have been talking, and we want to take a deeper look at what we're providing, and there are ways that we can improve that program.
Okay, thank you. Strategic recruiting and incentive plans to attract diverse educators, including relationships with local HCBU, the HCBUs that are close, like Kentucky State University, and professional organisms for teachers. I don't know if there's some way you all can do like a bonus, or we'll pay so much of your student loans. I don't know what you all can do, but we need something that's going to attract people to come to Danville and want to stay here and teach. And, you know, so we can have kids that look like them, you know, the Black students have people that look like them, the Hispanics, you know, just everybody. And so that they're just not seeing white teachers and white principals and white superintendents and white board members. We want the education system to be diverse all the way around. And I hope that that's what you all feel too.
Not allowed to speak, Mr. Becker.
What was that?
I'll go off of mute. Yes, you may.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure in a formal regular meeting that I was allowed to speak. And I think something you said, Cheryl, is very important that I don't know if everybody caught, but to come back here and teach. Like for our Black students to come back here and be a part of our district. That's something that has just stuck in me for the last couple of days.
Ms. Sadler, while you open that door there, just let me go ahead and say, because we as a board, I will tell you guys that that's conversations that we have been having for the last couple of board meetings for sure. And so I'm looking forward to, actually, I'm very excited to start working on that process and do exactly that, because we too would like to see our school system across the board look like it is and like it should.
And Cheryl, just so you know, that was already part of our strategic plan that we put forth last year, or we worked with Dr. McDonald to do that. So that was already a goal of our school system, but I think we as a board have all decided we really want to increase our focus on that upcoming as a board. You know, we worked on some of the other goals, maybe a little bit more, but we definitely as a board have all decided we want to put some more emphasis and power behind that goal this year. So.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. We got just one word. It's intentionality. We can have it, but we have to start putting some intentionality behind that whole process. And so I think.
Well, and I think that your typical recruitment and retention strategies, we have to rethink how we're going about it. We have to offer some things that aren't the norm, like you talked about bonuses and things like that. I think those are things we have to think about when we talk about this. I actually had a phone call on Monday with Damian Sweeney at Kentucky Department of Ed. He used to be a guidance counselor at Seneca in Jefferson County. And he was very much questioning why our AP course enrollments weren't a picture of our demographic total. So that's another area in which we need to do better, is having more students of color in upper level classes. And that way all of our rosters are a reflection of our student population.
Cheryl, let me say this. One of the things that we discussed in previous meetings is that we as the board members be a part of the recruiting process, go on these recruiting trips so the candidates can see what we're like and that we are part of the process. And I think this will help, like Mr. Wade said, the intentionality of being active in getting those persons in the school system. Another thing you brought out is Ms. Sally brought out bringing students back into the system, have graduated, come back and be a part of the teaching instruction. So that is the very proactive approach that the board is taking.
Okay. And the reason why we got our group, of course, we got going because of everything that's going on with, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the injustice in the justice system and all the systemic racism, which is in everything, in every aspect of our lives, our laws, everything. So we need our community, Danville, first and foremost, to be an environment that people want to come to. But with people not being able to find jobs, if they're coming here as a teacher, their spouse might not be able to get a job in Danville, because of those systemic racism issues. So we're trying to make the whole community a better place. So that way, when you all are trying to recruit teachers to come here, you can say, we have this to offer. We can, there's this job that they're hiring. Maybe we can, put in a word for you, and we just need to break those walls down so people want to come to Danville.
Chair, I'm in total agreement. We do need to grow our own. Teachers are not always respected these days. It's a hard profession. You have to be so dedicated to live and strive in the teaching profession. So we truly need, for everybody, for the sake of the future of the Danville schools, we need to grow our own teachers. When a kid comes to you at Tolliver or Hogsett and says, I want to be a teacher, we should be writing that name down and grooming that child all through those years. Because if that interest is there, we need to capitalize on that. So I just want to let you know that it's top on our minds that we need to grow our own.
And I think we also, as a board, made a point to talk about keeping and retention of our existing employees. So I encourage our existing employees, if anyone wants to reach out to that new committee and get involved, talk to Mrs. Satherley or Mr. Stanfield or Dr. McDonald. But I mean, we need to listen more and hear more about, experiences in the past and how things, have the conversations of, some problems and successes we've had as a district, and then what we can use to grow from those experiences. So.
And I know since we're going to move on, but Cheryl and Terry, please know that I've been around the system for a while as well, in and out of it. And to me, I just like to say, we talk a lot, but now it's time for us to start doing. So that's what it's all about at this point. We can talk a good game. But we got to put some, meat and potatoes on that plate with the meat. So please know that that's the direction that we're headed.
And that's what we're here for, because we will follow up, the things that y'all don't already have set in place. We'll, hopefully Terry will kind of take this over as I kind of transition onto my campaign for city commission. But we will hold you all accountable, just like we're going to be meeting with Boyle County, to go over the same demands we've set for them. So we will hold you all accountable and make sure it's just not talk, because I want to see Danville thrive.
Cheryl, there's one other thing you brought out that's very important. You may get a teacher up here, but the teacher's spouse, trying to find them employment, that may be a tough sale. And let's just be realistic about it. Maybe whatever job skill that person has, it may not be in the Danville area. So that's something we have to consider and be realistic about.
Yeah, I totally get that. But I'm saying if we could just kind of connect them to people, even if it's in Lexington, they're okay to drive.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because you got Mr. Stanfield driving to Louisville, so getting on some good highways is not a problem. Just getting down there, but make sure that there is a fit for that spouse.
Exactly.
And we can entertain the entire package. That's what you're talking about, and that's what we want to do.
Okay, the last item is commitment from the board. Hold on, is that the last one? Board of Education to diversify athletic head coaching, or to the superintendent, whoever is over this. I don't I don't think we've ever had a head football coach, Black football coach in Danville. I don't think we've had a head Black basketball male coach. So those are some things that are troubling also, because most of the kids probably are Black or marginalized, and they need to see someone that looks like them. You know, you got somebody out there pushing them on the field. Yes, you have assistant coaches or whatever, but they need to see some head coaches. Black head coaches need to be given opportunity too here in the Danville School District. So our kids can see that, hey, I play football. My coach is Black. I can do that one day. He did it right here in Danville.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard to be what you can't see.
Exactly.
It's cliche-ish, but it is so true, because
Yes.
I'm one of them. I mean, I became what I am because I saw somebody else do it. But I do think that, Troy, you might remember, did you have a Black basketball coach? What, Coach Yates?
We had Yates.
One time was the head coach at Danville.
Yates and Mike Menifee, because Mike was the coach.
He was for the girls, yes. I didn't know Yates.
The boys had Mr. Coach Yates.
Okay, well, cool. But, but I like to see more of that. Once, if coaching jobs come open, start, intentional, about seeking out. We have a lot of guys who have went on and done great things, Black guys, who have done great things that are played football for Danville or are coaching elsewhere now that could be, great assets to our athletic program in some way. So I want you all to be intentional about when you start recruiting, just like with teachers, be intentional about hiring, Black men for those jobs or Black women.
But let's be realistic. They may be in the pool for somebody else. And so we're competing with other systems for the same type skill set. So we may try, but somebody else in Owensboro or Paducah or Ashland or Covington or Louisville or Lexington may have a better, the dollars may be better, the benefits may be better. So you look at what we're competing against to get that person's here.
True, but I think that a lot of people who know Danville and know Danville sports, that Danville fans are loyal.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
And Danville fans are loyal. Like, football is the heart of this community. And I don't want anything to happen to Clay, but just if his position was ever come open, there will be so many people chomping at the bit for that job, I'm sure.
I'm
So,
saying.
money sometimes is not everything to everybody. Some people do it out of love and out of loyalty because that's their Danville Admiral at heart. And there are plenty of guys who could come back and probably, coach our football team.
Yeah, they have a heart for it. I hear you. They have a heart for it.
Not just looking at just in that round too, also in central office too, when that opportunity comes about.
Yes.
In these other positions. So we're looking completely across the board. And Cheryl, I just want to say thank you to you for really stepping up and taking charge. I know it was something that you probably didn't want to do, but it was in your heart to do. So I thank you. Good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everything you do. So don't hesitate to hold our feet to the fire. Keep us going. That's the only way. That's the way we're going to be able to get this to change. So appreciate what you've done.
We'll check in. I may email Ms. Satterley or Terry may email or whatever to check in about every 30 days or so. I know y'all have a lot to do with COVID going on. I admire you all. I admire all the teachers. I know I would not want to be in your position right now. So I wish you all the best. If I can do anything to help out, you all never hesitate to contact me. I don't care if it's coming and reading a story to the kids at school. I'll do whatever I can. I don't care. But you all, wish you the best, and go Ads.
Cheryl, I'd like to thank you and Terry for a wonderful discussion that we've had. I don't want it to end. I really would like to have it on our agenda at least a couple times a year. If not more.
That'd be great.
So, Terry, we'll be calling on you and definitely.
All right, I'll be here.
Yes, because Terry, if you don't mind, she can be the contact for this.
Okay.
That's how we had originally set it up, but we all get busy and stuff. And, she's dedicated. She has a heart of gold and she wants what's best for the kids. So she can speak for herself. I don't have to.
I want you all to know before you sign off that my phone is already dinging left and right of people wanting to be on our council, Mr. Steve. Just from watching this meeting.
I want to say that because also I want to share the chair to know as well that because we want that particular committee to please be a part of that council as well, so that, you know, because we're going to be, you know, meeting with the board, we're going to have a seat at the table. And I think that's important. So.
Well, and Mr. Danville and I are going to play off of each other all night tonight. I think he said seat at the table. I attended a session with a UK professor yesterday about cultivating an anti-racist mindset, and it was really good. I would love to have her come here and do it with all of our staff. But one of her biggest points was use your seat at the table. That's why you have it. And I think that's where most of us are right now, is we have a seat, we need to use it.
Someone said that to me earlier today. They said you got a seat at the table, and I said, and I have my utensils also, and my plate is ready. So
That's fantastic.
thank you all so much. I truly appreciate it.
Before you go, Cheryl.
Thank you guys for your time.
Before you go, Cheryl, one of the things I want to be very, very upfront about the goals that you all set up. Make sure that they are realistic and not just pie in the sky stuff, but make sure that they're realistic and things that we can achieve, and hold our feet to the fire that we do achieve them. Thank you.
I don't think any of these are unrealistic, and sounds like you already started moving on some of them.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you all so much.
All right.
Thank you.
all
Have a
so
good
much.
night.
It was a great dialogue, and we're going to do this again soon. All right, let's move on. Since I screwed up the agenda before, let's move to 3D on personnel notifications. Have you all had a chance to look at that? Okay. So if you all have any questions about the personnel report to the board, you know, you can get a hold of Dr. McDonald. All right. So let's move on to the superintendent's report on, I guess, Tammy, do you have anything you want to add on the personnel report?
No, Mr. Rickard, those are just notifications. So.
Right. Okay, just wanted to make sure. And then, so the item that I was talking about, which I jumped ahead, is 3E, which is school activity fund donation notifications. We don't need to vote on that. It's something that's being provided to us. I do thank Mrs. Osborne for doing that. It was definitely nice to see those who believe in the Danville schools and have freely donated, so, which is a great thing. Item number 4 is the approval of the previous minutes. Do we have a motion, please?
I make a motion for the approval of the June 3rd, June 8th, and June 15th meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
Okay, so Teresa, you can put down who you want on that second. We've had several meetings concerning lots of things, and I appreciate the board's patience and superintendent's patience and so forth. So we have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, seeing there are none opposed, the motion passes. Thank you all. Okay, number 5 is along with 6, pretty important stuff. Things that we need to get some, maybe we have questions, we want clarifications, but we're talking about the reopening plan that was presented, I guess our last meeting that we did talk about things. So we have an opportunity, and Dr. McDonald, I'm gonna have you lead this so that, and also I know Mrs. Satterley is involved in these things too. So go ahead, Dr. McDonald.
Yeah, I can give a update since the last. We had a meeting about a week and a half ago on Monday, and at that point, I presented the reopening plans. We've communicated with parents in the community, and in those plans, we do state that at that time, on the 10th of July, when we released that plan, that our intent was to try to have school 5 days a week in person. So just kind of some updates on some things between that point and now. We've been working diligently to try to meet the social distancing guidelines that were given to us by KDE. Some examples are wearing masks, being 6 feet apart, having dividers between things like sinks. making sure that all students are facing forward and that they're in individual desks. We have quite a few tables at Bait and Hogsett, so that's been a little bit of a challenge. So through working through those plans with principals and then teachers too, in their classrooms, I will admit it's very challenging. And I'm not sure that we can meet those guidelines through KDE to what I would call the letter of the law. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. We also have done some surveys. And so we did survey all of our staff this past weekend, and this survey closed last night or yesterday afternoon. And through that survey, we had 290 responses. We have 320 employees. That number, as of today, is fluctuating because we're in the hiring process. But as of right now, we have around 320 employees, 290 responses. So that's a 90% response rate from our staff, which is unusually high for any survey. And 54.8% of all of our employees answered no to the question, do you feel comfortable coming back to work face-to-face with students in the physical building and or on a bus? And so they're watching the news. They know that the rates of COVID are climbing, not only, in the nation, but in our state and our community. And I feel that legitimate concern for safety. Through our parent survey, we did an initial survey of families about a month ago. And in that survey, we had anywhere, depending on the school and grade level, anywhere from 15 to about 20% parents thought they would, or families, that they would choose the online option. Currently, our survey for families to choose either online or face-to-face, that survey is still open through the 24th, so it's not closed. But as of this morning around 10 a.m. when I pulled the numbers, we had for our parents, it was, and I'm looking, we had 48.9% that were choosing in person. And we had, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. We had 51.1% choosing in person, and we had 48.9% choosing one of the two online options. So in a month's time, we have had families, the percentage of wanting the online option go from around 15 to 20% up to 48.9%. So I think that we're seeing a shift with our families too, and their concerns about safety and returning to school as well. And again, one of the things that I've been stating from the beginning is one of our biggest challenges is transportation. We are still trying to really work out, that transportation, and it just each day it's a little more of a challenge with that. Our district we have a very population-wise, we have a dense population and a very small landmass. And so in a normal year, our buses are at capacity with those routes. And so it poses even more of a challenge than, let's say, a school district that might have a larger landmass with less dense population because our buses are at capacity normally anyway. And so we have those extra challenges with social distancing. So I just want to open it up to conversation with board members at this time, but I will say that I am a little concerned at this point about opening school with the face-to-face option.
Dr. McDonald, just a quick question. I mean, and listen, I heard everything you said, and I too, have been hearing all of those things, and especially by myself working in another district as well. And I mean, with everything that you have said, I mean, is there a recommendation from you at this time?
Well, so a couple of different things. I've thought about possibly looking at that hybrid AB model that we discussed. It's in our plan. It's one of our options that we possibly could do that AB hybrid at one point, which would mean 2 days in person and 3 days online. I think that we probably could, with some more work, meet the social distancing guidelines from KDE to we could call the letter of the law. However, if our cases are on a trend that's increasing. So if that continues, then I could see a world where we are just having students in and out, and it being a little more difficult. I wonder if the half hybrid would be complicated for parents. Another concern is, like I mentioned in my comments, to where we are planning for two schools, basically an online school and an in-person school, and we're planning them simultaneously. And it's the first time that we've done that. And we have a very short time to get all of these plans really solid. I do think that if we're going to continue to see an increased trend in cases, and families are going to have to make arrangement for an online possibility, that we would be better to make a decision for that today. We all know that if we look at state numbers, in any state, when you have increase in cases, the hospitalizations follow. So we're really thinking about if across our state we see increases in 2 weeks, we're going to continue to see increases in hospitalizations. So I don't know that just following the data since March that we're going to see a decrease in the next 2 weeks. Well, we have teachers that are returning in 2.5 weeks. We have administrators that are trying to plan right now for multiple possibilities. I think that we would have stronger and better instruction if we made a solid decision today for our students and families, so that families could plan, so that our teachers could plan, and so that our administrators could also really work on that.
I'd like to ask, from the point of view that, there's been several school districts that are going to do online instruction. And, the questions I have, and maybe Mrs. Satterley can answer this because I know you've been working on things along with Dr. McDonald. How's that day going to look? And I think parents really need to know, are the teachers going to start at 8:30 in the morning? It's all going to be online. They're going to have their kids there on their Chromebooks or iPads. And then we're going to have a lunch period, and then we're going to go until 2 o'clock. And maybe I'm totally wrong on all this, Ms. Satterley, but can you kind of give us an idea of what maybe the day is going to look like if we do online?
I don't think you're totally wrong, but I don't think we will have students sitting down from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. The plan for students is to definitely have some type of interaction with someone, a teacher, whether it be in elementary, their homeroom teacher, or a related arts teacher, or a library media specialist, or a guidance counselor, or GT teacher, or a special ed resource teacher. They would be face-to-face contact with someone each day. The guidance from the state talks about a combination of synchronous and asynchronous digital delivery methods. So of course, for some part of that day, they will be doing independent work. But of course, teachers, they will see somebody every day. That's our plan, even though the guidance, I can't remember where it came from. And I even asked Dr. McDonald right before. I know I read this. I know I heard it. Tell me where I got it. The guidance suggested for elementary to have one 15 to 20 minute virtual session every day. We don't feel like that's enough. I'm just going to be honest. And then the guidance for secondary was one session per week. And we really don't feel like that's enough. So we're kind of going at it on our own and creating our own schedules. And they're not in shareable form yet because we're just in very rough drafts of this. But our goal is for students that this wouldn't look what it looked like in the spring, that this would be more like the classroom, but the guidance also suggests that when you do return to the classroom, that the classroom look more like the virtual, the blended model, in case we do have to have those intermittent closures of 2 to 3 days or 10 to 20 days. But the goal is to have them engaged as much as possible throughout the school day, but to also have plans for those parents who can't make during the school day work because they have to work and they can't be there by their child's side every time that they have to log on. So making it as user-friendly, like Dr. McDonald said, we're working on we haven't started recording the tutorials yet, but working on some Danville specific tutorials on how to access Google Classroom, how to access Seesaw, which is the learning management system that K1 is going to use, how to open a Google Meet, how to type in the chat box, how to, you know, because I think those were some of the struggles that parents and students encountered in the spring that don't use Google every day, you know. So just making sure that we are taking care of our Danville kids and making sure that they are having daily interaction with teachers.
And it depends on the age of the student. So for example, some conversations maybe that at Hogsett Primary, it's a 15 to 20 minute Google Meet 2 or 3 times a day, spaced throughout the day, one day. But the high school may be their first, third, and fifth period class would be on Monday, and it would be a 45-minute or hour Google Meet. And so then maybe you'd have Tuesday, Thursday classes, so that, but they would be a longer span of time when they have those at middle school and high school than it would be at the elementary or Hogsett specifically. Some of the guidance, not just KDE, but like national guidance from virtual schools and research around virtual schools states that for that primary age, that really 15 minutes on some type of a virtual online is max. So you would have shorter chunks during the day instead of a longer period of time that you might have for high school. So it depends on, you know, what grade level you're discussing as to what that would specifically look like. I know that Mrs. Satterley and her group that have been working on this, there are drafts that they have. I've been in, you know, where the documents are shared, and I've been reviewing and watching how they are changing as that group is working. And it has specifics in there that are not solid yet, but it may say at this grade level, this time on these days you would have, you know, math, on this time on these days you would have reading, and it's spaced out. So literally there's a chart that starts with kindergarten and goes through, you know, Hogsett and Tolliver, and then the high school goes by periods. So that if you have a parent that has 3 children close in age, so maybe they have a 2nd grader and a 4th and a 5th grader, that you wouldn't have all 3 of those young children in your house on a Google Meet for reading at the same time, and a family member was trying to help all 3. So we're trying to schedule across the district to make sure that we don't overwhelm one family that may have multiple children.
We're trying to spread things out as much as possible so that there's not a ton of overlap, but we're also trying to put some consistency in there, because that was our main complaint that we heard in the spring, is that it wasn't consistent. And so, like, for instance, for grades 2 through 12, one of the consistency things I saw that needed to be addressed was, for this teacher, you can access the work on my class Facebook page. For this teacher, you can access the work on my class website or my Google Classroom or my Blackboard. So even though, like, AP classes are a good example, most AP classes use an AP platform provided by the College Board. And we want them to continue that, but we want them to keep that in a Google Classroom so that that's where all students go 2 through 12 to access everything. Everything will be posted to the Google Classroom so that there's no question of where they have to go for today's assignment or tomorrow's assignment, or for the link for my virtual meeting for today. So consistency is key. And I'll just, it's not, of course, Tammy said it's not in final form yet, but some of the things the committee's been working on is right now with the current calendar, which I know you all are getting ready to discuss that. So right now with the current calendar, what the first 10 days look like for teachers and what work needs to be accomplished for the first day of school to be successful. What technology help we need to supply for teachers, for students, and for parents, and that's where those tutorials come in. Virtual expectations for teacher-led distance learning, which is what we're talking about here. So we've outlined some expectations for students, for parents, and for teachers. And the parents column is more like advice, not expectations, if that makes sense. Like how you can help it be more successful for your student, like ensure that your student knows when their class meets. And some parents aren't going to have to do that. And some parents will. My child is not going to get on his Google Meet by himself. I'm gonna have to help him do that. And then full virtual NTI expectations. And then we're also working on some instructional expectations about determining current state, what standards were missed last year, and making sure we embed those with current grade level standards, because we all know that backing up and staying in the backup is not going to move them forward. They have to have access to grade level content. So our instructional coaches are working really hard to adjust curriculum currently to make sure that we are assessing them first thing in the school year to see where they are and where we need to go, but we are assessing them on grade level content. We're not going to go back and assess a second grader on first grade content. We do want to bring those skills along, but we need to embed them with the standards that they go with in second grade content, if that makes sense. And I say first and second grade just because that's where my son is. It's familiar to me right now as a parent. But acceleration of learning, not acceleration how we think of acceleration, just making sure they're where they are when they need to be there.
I have had a parent concern because apparently they don't have internet in their home. So how are we going to handle that with parents that don't have internet in their home?
So we're going to purchase hotspots and provide that to parents that need that. We will get the Family Resource Center to help us identify as well. That is also, those are questions that are in the family survey that is out, that is open currently. And we really need parents, no matter what direction the board goes in this evening, we need parents to fill out that, and families to fill out that survey, because it does have questions in there about food service, which will continue no matter what world we're in at any point this year. We will continue food service. And it has questions in there about your internet connectivity, because someone could possibly even have access to the internet, but it's in their home. It may struggle to stream a live video very well. So we do need those surveys filled out, and we are working to provide that for families that need that assistance.
And
I'm glad to hear that, Dr. McDonald. Also, as far as technology devices, I mean, and if they are, I mean, I'm sure that we have data from how we ended, or how we began COVID with those devices and ended it. And I guess I'm trying to address the families that have multiple children in the home. And sometimes, right, and so sometimes it's hard to have them share a device. And that just puts stress on the family. So can someone address that, Sherry?
Yeah, we don't have any plans for anybody to have to share devices, actually. And Mr. Gover's on here, he's listening, but his team this morning was tagging all the brand new iPads for K and 1 students. Our plan, and we've already purchased all the devices, is for every K and 1 student to have an iPad, and for every 2 through 12 student to have a Chromebook. A device should not be a barrier to this, and we don't plan for it to be.
That's great. That's great news.
We are also planning, so normally our younger students do not take home Chromebooks. Like second graders, they used Chromebooks in the classroom. They didn't take them home. So we do, and even our other students may not have taken them home, daily. So we are planning that we could have a higher percentage, of some damage or things like that. Just accidents happen, we know that. And so we're making plans so that we can handle those situations very quickly if it does happen. And get an exchange while something's being repaired or so forth. So we don't want any of those, whether lack of or an accident, to be a barrier for our students and families.
And going back to the survey, I just got a text message from Miss Ray saying that we may want to, if you hear of families that don't have internet that can't complete the survey, that they may call and we can put their responses in for them if they.
Yes.
If they need us to know that they can call the board office and we can take their responses for them, because we do need to know if they don't have internet so that we can provide that for them.
And we've already done that with a few families. So anybody that needs any access to any information, they can either call the central office from 8 to 4 or give us a call.
Well, I think.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, I just was saying, we're circling back to Dr. McDonald's original thing. It was when she put out the survey to the staff, I know there's a lot of anxiety, but I was really, and I was kind of thinking it would be around 20%, but 50% or above 50% is a very significant number. And as a parent, I was ready, you've been listening to me since March. I'm ready for my kids to go back. But I also have extended family that I've started to see again. And if my son goes back to school, I cannot see those people on a clear conscience. And I don't want our staff to feel that way either. And I want our students to learn in an environment where they're not fearful. And I think, with the level of anxiety and everything, I feel most comfortable now after being on watching Alex be on isolation this week, to have them to be online and make that decision now and watch what's, Kentucky is going through some very unknown things right now. And I would rather not pull the rug out from underneath our teachers and staff and work really diligently towards 2 different plans. And then on day 2, say, okay, we have to close the doors. So you figure out where to send your kids tomorrow, figure out how to get all these, what we did last March. I would rather focus this next month on getting a well executed plan to develop not only an instructional that Mrs. Satherley's doing a great job, but also emotional care for these kids to know that, well-rounded, that they know, there's a school counselor they can call. The parent, if they're feeling overwhelmed, what do we do for them? We need a whole concept, because these kids also are going to new teachers this year. My son won't have the same wonderful teacher he had in 4th grade. He's going to have a new teacher. And maybe we've talked about kind of behind the scenes, maybe some orientation or something, way our kids can bond with those new teachers. And those new teachers want to see their kids, and maybe sitting in a room where the kids behind it at a desk where they can't move and fidget and things like that, that might not be the best way for them to connect either. So I would prefer, out of safety for our staff, our students and teachers, everybody, to start off slow and then reevaluate and rebuild as we see what Kentucky goes through. I'm not saying this is what I would want to do for the whole first year, but I'd like to make a motion that our board enter into online only for the fall, for the start of the fall semester, and reevaluate 2 weeks before the 9 weeks, or whatever board meeting before the 9-week mark.
Okay, we do have a motion that's been presented. Does anybody want to second that?
I second it.
Okay, I
I have the motion repeated. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, I made it really, well, I'd like to make a motion that the Danville schools go into online only, committing to at least the first 6 weeks and reevaluate then. And that's it.
okay.
Thank you.
I think we have a motion and a second. I'd like to have more discussion.
Okay.
I'm very concerned even about the mental health of our parents.
Mm.
They look at things, and being still a parent, but much older children, but parents look at things a whole lot differently than a lot of folks. So your child's been home, not under any guided instruction for almost 6 months. The idea of the possibility of we're looking at maybe another 6 months. And I believe that no matter what decision is made, we have to realize that folks need to go to work. And there's not always going to be the grandmother or the aunt or the uncle or whoever it might be to come to that house on a regular basis, and also make sure that their kids are getting online and they're paying attention to what's going on. Somebody's there to help with the assignments. And I just think this is huge. Talking with other board members, this is the hardest thing that any board would go through. It's the hardest thing to be able not to be able to assure our parents that it's all going to be okay. You know, it's hard for sometimes folks to imagine and not or realize that you put 600 kids into a building along with 50 staff, and the possibilities are endless that somebody is going to get infected by the disease. So then we have that aspect, another aspect of the turnaround of this is that, so we have a child or 3 children, and then we have staff that now are under quarantine 14 days. Also look at either we're in or we're either doing online or in person. There's not enough subs in this area to take care of all the school districts. And there are some days, as you all know, we have a tough time getting subs. It isn't just Danville. It's everywhere. So there just is a lot that needs to be talked about. I personally want to make sure that everybody that's in the building, from kid all the way to the top, are safe, and that we're going to be able to provide as much safety to them as possible. The online is going to be challenging. I'm just hoping that we're going to have enough teeth in it that our kids will actually learn and be able to advance. And I know, Ms. Sadler, you guys are working hard on this. And I appreciate all of you.
I think we
And-
definitely will have enough teeth in it. I think we had as much teeth in it as we could in the spring with such short notice.
I agree. No, and I agree with that.
And that's
But
my fear, like Ms. Finke said, that's my fear, that we're going to have to make that decision on the fly, which we have plans to be able to make that decision on the fly and be prepared now. But I mean, I will say this, just in response to something that was said, I want to give our teachers kudos because there were compliments on NTI also. My child in particular, I'll go ahead and say, my child didn't have 6 months of non-guided instruction because his teacher did a wonderful job. And I think she's watching right now, and I hope she knows she did a wonderful job. And I want our staff to know they did as wonderful of a job as they could in the circumstance. And I think we need to, like you said, top priority is safety of everybody. And we also have to think about what's going to be best and how we can best plan moving forward from today. And I personally, I don't want to do this, but I also don't want to have to quarantine a whole class of kids for 14 days and a teacher and an assistant and any cafeteria worker that they came into contact with. And I'm probably going way too far, but like, I just think that we have time to plan right now. And I know this isn't what anybody wants to do. But I agree with Lori wholeheartedly that I would prefer not to have to make that decision on the fly like we did.
Well, and as a parent, I would rather have a month to prepare, to figure out, I mean, I've been working and trying to figure it out and not very successfully working, but if I knew, I had a month, I could probably find someone either, if I have to go back into the office, find someone or work on it, or maybe even they can work with our resource, or, at this point, the state is not on lockdown. You're not having to be in your house. Maybe you could pair up with a friend whose parent, the rules aren't as strict as they were in the spring, but they could be trending that way. But I would much rather have that time as a parent to know those things, and then to say, okay, Monday, guess what? No school, or no, like, you're going to have to teach online. That was really hard. And, I think we have to do maybe some little boot camp for our kids. We got to get them ready, get these little ones used to waking up and things like that. But it sounds like we're going to have a much more structured schedule for them, which will help. and we've got to keep them moving. And, we also, we were talking about the social emotional, like the physical health of these kids. Like, I think some of our schools did a great job. Like I loved Hogsets. Every morning they visited someplace in town and did a video of it. There were some things that even though the kids were at home, like they were still getting out and learning about our community in innovative ways. So I'd rather spend time focusing on that than to focus on like how many kids can sit where on a bus right now, and then them not even get on a bus because our governor has to shut down. So, but I mean, I'm hoping at 6 weeks we can turn around and go back, and then we'll have it, better figured out. But I'd rather start off safe.
Well, and I just got a funny message, but it's not really funny, but it's something that this person said to me this morning. We have families that could potentially shut down the whole district because they have kids in every building and one of their parents might teach in our district, so I mean, it's one family could impact the entire district.
Shirley, might ask you a question. Do the numbers really drive our decision, primarily numbers that are happening in the state?
So I'd like to answer that question. So there are multiple things that were driving me to put this topic back on the board. So we do have increasing numbers in the state, and that's something to think about because that tells us that it's not going to look that different 2 weeks from now. We have back in the building in 2.5 weeks and staff in 2.5 weeks. So since we're trending upward and we know that there's a delay, in the spread, I don't see a huge difference or that all of a sudden we're dropping 2 weeks from now. So that is one. But some of the bigger concerns is that the KDE released multiple guidance documents. One document in particular is called Healthy at Schools, and it lists what are called safety expectations. And so we have been working very diligently for the last month to be able to meet those. And it literally states in the document that these safety expectations are a must. We have to do them. They're recommendations. And so through multiple just communications with Frankfurt as well, the language over the last couple of weeks is just, it's been a constant reminder that these safety expectations are basically, even though the word requirements not being used, they're basically requirements because it is expected that we do those. And over the last month, as we thought, we can probably, spread out with this. We could probably do this. We could probably do that. As we have had our teachers entering back into the buildings, looking at our reopening plan and looking through those documents and trying to figure this out, they've thought about things that some of the administrators or even maybe some teachers that were on some of our original planning committees did not think about. So as we've been pulling in more and more of our staff to really work on those guidelines, we're seeing more and more that it's a little more of a challenge than we first anticipated. So you do have increasing numbers, but you also have that we've tried to work for the last month to meet these guidelines presented to us to the letter of the law. And it's a challenge. And there are some that we would not meet. There may be a place that there are 2 desks that are 5 feet and not 6 feet. And some people may say, well, that's okay. But our guidelines and the Department of Health does not say that that's okay.
And I'll just, I'm trying to relay everything I'm receiving currently on my phone just because there must be a lot of people watching. But another consideration, this is from a staff member, along the same lines is staff members who have family members with compromised immune systems. They're worried they won't feel safe to go home to someone in their home that might be sick, very, very sick, or a mother or a father.
Or a grandmother that your student there's a lot of multi-generational families that live together.
Right.
And, well, a lot of our faculty and staff themselves are in the high risk category. They just are. And so we have that to consider too. They were going to ask them. And it's a high enough percentage that we need all of our staff to be able to open 5 days a week. And we have a high enough percentage of staff that's at risk that if we tried to make accommodations to let them stay at home during that time, then it would be impossible to have all of our students 5 days a week. So anyway, it's something
Could
to
we,
consider as
I mean,
well.
if we went to online only, we would of course still be sending food home with those, or they would still have food services. And
Yes.
possibly maybe we could keep our family resource centers, like, in contact with people. And then,
Yes.
and I know teachers want to start with students, but well, I just think this is inevitable.
Yeah.
And it seems like other districts, like Wade's district has gone this way. And then Franklin County, this is not a Kentucky only thing. I mean, nationwide, my friends in everybody's states are grasping with these same decisions.
Yeah.
And I'd just rather have the most time to prepare.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr.
Yes. No, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. Have we, and Lori, I totally agree, but have we looked at what it would look like in our district, just in case, say if we go back to online, have we, in our surveys, does it tell us any, whether students would go online or versus homeschool, or do we have any kind of data such as that?
So we don't have that data. We've had a handful, maybe 2 or 3. Mr. Ballard, you're on this Zoom. We've had just a handful that have requested homeschool, and when I think Ballard had some conversations that we would have complete online options. I think they're holding to see what that looks like. Before they make that decision. So no one, to my knowledge, Mr. Ballard, correct me if I'm wrong, has committed or stated that they are headed to homeschool at this point.
We don't have anybody new at this time. We've had some that have just come back and said they're going to homeschool again. And even those families, I've just explained to them that we may have other options so that they may be able to take advantage of this new curriculum that we have.
Well, and I'm not trying to make some people feel bad, but I do feel like that part of my job being part of the board is that sometimes I feel like I need to be the devil's advocate. I feel like that there are some folks out there that feel like they're not being represented. And I think that all of us know that whatever decision we make, it's going to be a hardship. I mean, we could decide we're going to do in-person learning, and then 3 weeks later, we're shut down. So I'm not leaning one way or the other at this point, but I do feel like that I need to feel realistic about the decision we're making to make sure that it's going to be accommodating to all of our folks in some way. And also reassuring that our parents and students need to realize this isn't what NTI was when you guys had to create it in 48 hours. And I think that's been a real stickler with some folks that I've talked to, that they want to be assured that we're not back with pockets and that we're able to accommodate their kids. Special needs kids. Where are we going to be on that?
Well, so I think as long as we're not in a complete shutdown. So, I mean, there could be a world where the governor, shuts us down. As long as we are not in that, the governor's guidelines right now are small groups. If we have some special needs kids that need services, for example, let's say physical therapy. If a student needs a service that does really require face-to-face, we're not closing the schools. We could bring a student in to receive some services. Mrs. Ray and I have had some of those conversations where there may be some places where it's a one-on-one, maybe a teacher with 2. If the teacher is not in a high-risk category, feels comfortable, there may be some times that we would bring in 1 or 2 students to receive services. So that option is definitely there, even in this world, as long as we're not, shut down completely like we were back in March. So we've talked about that. Another thing that I've also had conversations with some different staff members in the district is possibly having an optional orientation, so that if you say we have a teacher that has 20 students in their class, that we might over 4 or 5 days possibly spread out to where 4 students optionally, their parents could bring them to school and our family member, and they could have at least see the teacher physically, face to face. Of course, we would have to follow all of those guidelines, but you would have 4 students with 1 teacher, maybe for a 2 or 3 hour block. They could have a to-go lunch to take with them when they left, and they would at least be able to, they could pick up their iPad or their Chromebook, and they could meet that teacher and at least see that space. So hopefully we're going to see a decline in the state and things would improve. And when we were back face to face, whether that's 6 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it looks like, they already know what their room looks like. They've already met their teacher face to face. I think that could be optional for parents. And I'm just throwing some ideas that some staff members have suggested. And I think we could social distance with 3 or 4 students in a room. That would be prior to school starting. So some type of a orientation is possible as well with a very small group.
Well, and there's also no world in which they couldn't receive those services virtually. And that's some of the guidance that came out from the state just as recent as of Monday. So like, for instance, least restrictive environment for special ed kids. Just because the classroom changes from in-person to virtual doesn't mean that the environment became more restrictive, and it may not require an ARC decision just based on Monday's guidance. And there are no plans by us to not still deliver those services, even if it has to be in a virtual fashion. And that includes English language learners, 504 students, GT students, special education students.
I just got a text from a parent that said, will the teachers be at home or will they be in their classrooms?
So I believe at this time we could have our employees in the building, and that's what I would recommend. I know we do have some employees that are also parents of school-age children, and I think that we can work out a plan to provide options there. We don't have anything set yet because we didn't know, we don't know what the board is going to do tonight. But we've had all of these discussions because we know COVID is unknown and that we've had to change literally hourly over the last several months. But we have had conversations about, how could we help our staff that does have school-age children, and we will work something out there. But we can social distance if you have 1 or 2 staff members in a classroom, where it will be very difficult to social distance if you have 1 or 2 staff members and, anywhere from 12 to 20 students in a classroom. So I do believe, because the state's not shut down and people still can go to work with social distancing accommodations, that it would be the easiest and we would have the most effective online instruction if we have our employees in the building. A lot of the planning that Mrs. Satterley and that instructional committee are working on, there is some pieces about recording lessons, posting recorded lessons in their Google Classroom. We have purchased tripods and equipment for all teachers in order to do that work. It would, I think, be the strongest work if it's done in classrooms.
And we have already discussed making sure there are some pretty firm guidelines in place for when adults are in the building. I mean, even here, we only have 1/3 of our staff here at any given time. And if I cross the threshold of my door, I have my mask on. So I think, I know that pending board decision tonight, would start working on some guidelines for that as well.
When you can hear people in the office yell, when you move your mask, you're moving masks. So if somebody steps across the threshold and forgets, then someone else calls them out on it. So
Well,
I have to say, even, go ahead.
Let me
Steve.
just ask this one quick question. Are we still going to have, or will our students and staff still have access to the Danville Peds for any kind of information, if they need to get in there quickly with their child because they do have 100.6 fever. I just was wondering, has there been conversations with those folks on how the health and mental health issues are going to look like?
So as far as mental health, we do have, we have employees, we have our guidance counselors, we have our mental health counselor that we added. As far as I know, we're still going to receive and have partnership with the hospital and Danville Peds on those services. Those services would and could and will continue remotely. As far as students that have a fever, I cannot speak to Danville pediatricians and what they would do in their office. Mr. Ballard may have had some conversations, but they currently now see our students. They have evening hours, they have weekend hours, and they currently, even like in the summertime, see our students. So I shouldn't speak for them, but I know that would continue. Mr. Ballard, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, the plan is to go ahead after the decision's made, whatever decision we make moving forward, to meet with Danville Peds the first of next week and figure out what plan we'll have.
Okay. I just think knowing what recommendations they may have and what other services they're going to be able to offer the district, if it's going to be testing at request or whatever. And I do think, and I know I've got parents that are still concerned about that end of it. And I'm glad that that you guys are going to have conversations with them concerning the health and mental health of our kids. So does anybody else have comments or?
One more thing is, it's been interesting just being a board member, doing these board meetings, both in a mask, at a meeting, in person. It was nice to see you all, but I am much more comfortable sitting in my own home doing this. And I'm not, and I can only imagine a kindergartner trying to keep the mask on, and that responsibility of a teacher while we're under these restrictions has totally gone greater. Like, they're having to do a zillion other things on top of teach. And then maybe while we're under these restrictions that legally were bind us to, to me, they're unrealistic constraints. I would think a student would feel more comfortable at home until those restrictions are looser. But that's my opinion.
Well, and since you brought it up, Ms. Pinky, talking about kindergarten students, it's not in any way, shape, or form best practice for kindergartners or first graders or preschoolers to be 6 feet apart. They do a lot of their learning collaboratively and in small groups and in centers, and that's something that realistically, we just don't know.
And hopefully they can do that in a virtual world. I mean, I was talking to a Spanish teacher, and he was talking about how he's going to have to record his lessons speaking on YouTube and then go into the class and press the lessons, because he's going to have to be in a mask to teach the class. So it's interesting in these language and developmental things. Teachers, I mean, you need to see the teacher, and unfortunately that's not okay in the COVID world. And so a lot of those, I mean, it's just crazy times we're in.
Do any other board members, Troy, do you have anything you want to chime in about or talk about? Okay. Glenn, any other questions or concerns? You're on mute, by the way.
I'm okay.
All right. Wade, anything else that?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I feel like we've had a lot of discussion and meaningful. I think the job that happened with COVID so far has been remarkable. To be able to do something in 48 hours because you just have to doesn't mean it always is done well. But I know that what our system did, it was done well. And I just think that everyone involved needs to be complimented on all the work that took place. And, it was important work, because we never forgot about our number one concern, and that's our kids. And that's where we were and have been and still will be. So we have a motion and a second on the table. The motion is that we would start with online instruction, go through I guess, if there's going to be a fall break or whatever that week, and see how things are going, and then visit this situation again. So like I said, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed? Didn't hear it. So I want to thank the board. This has been tough. The motion passes, and so I know this will allow the administrators and teachers to move forward in the right direction. So thank you all. Ms. Satterley, thank you for all your work, and Dr. McDonald, of course, and Teresa, and Mr. Ballard, and Ms. Fisher. So everyone involved, it's been tremendous work. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Okay, so we want to move on to, hang on a second. I got to get my other computer going. Okay,
As we
now
move-
now we're at item number 6. It's a possible calendar revision. Dr. McDonald, if you would like to start on this.
Yes.
Can you share your screen on this, Dr. McDonald? I know in the past people have asked when we're talking
can.
calendar.
Let me 1 second, since I wasn't prepared. So Mr. Ballard, I'll share in just 1 second. Let me get everyone started. It'll take me a second to pull them up, but there are multiple options here for a calendar. A week and a half ago, the board discussed calendar options, still with that start date on the 25th. But what the rest of the year looked like, even though the board had voted to start student start date on the 25th last month, the board discussed what the rest of the year looked like, and there was an option there. And across the last week and a half, some faculty members have given feedback, some staff members have given feedback. We did share the draft on the last Wednesday's virtual question and answer. So we've received a lot of feedback from staff after the draft was shared there. And so then at the request of some board members to think about options in different ways, and staff members request, we actually have 5 different calendar options at this point that the board's looking at. So Mr. Ballard, if you will talk about those, I'm going to get them pulled up and get them on the screen.
Sorry, I didn't have mine pulled up as well, but I can get it pulled up fairly quickly here.
Okay, do you see just a calendar at this point? Do you see the calendar?
Yep.
Okay, so this is option 1, but I can click as Mr. Ballard talks on each of the options.
Now I can't see. Am I on mute?
No, you're not.
Okay. So look, this is the last calendar that we looked at that you all approved. What it looks like, it appears with the start date of 25th and the last day of May 25th. It has a condensed fall break, with the Wednesday actually being a planning day. And then you can see there's an additional planning days throughout the year, around the election day, after the winter break, and again in March.
So this option was designed when we were thinking about being in school 5 days a week, and it spread out some extra planning days throughout the year. We're going to go to option 2, Mr. Ballard.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, option 2.
Based on some of the feedback from your all's work session, we in this calendar, we pulled out all of the planning days that were out throughout the year. This has 2 additional planning days on the 24th and the 25th, with the 26th and the 27th being the staff opening and student first days. And the idea behind this one is, if I'm correct, I believe correctly, is the 20th, 21st, and 24th and 25th would be designated days for those orientation days.
Yeah, possibly a half day or a couple of hours orientation and the rest of the day planning as well.
We've in this, we've added back the full fall break. We still have the, we converted the 25th of November to have that Wednesday off, and all other breaks are in there and holidays. Still no planning days throughout the rest of the year. And this one, we actually moved the student last day to the Thursday, May 20th, for a total of 164 student days.
Option 3.
Similar thought, additional planning days with just a 2 days later start date, giving more planning days up front for teachers to get ready for this online instruction. Again, we've pulled out all the planning days throughout the rest of the year. This one does not have, it still only has a 2-day fall break. All other breaks are still applicable. And this still has the closing day, last day for students in May 24th for a total of 167 student days.
Okay. Option 4.
Similar to the last one, we just added the full fall break, and students start, and then, I mean, students' last day would be May 20th, and this one gives us 162 student days.
And then option 5.
This is students starting after Labor Day. This was one of the early, this one was looking at still maximizing the number of student days. We took off 2 days for fall break. All other breaks still remain, and it would have us having students, last day is June 1st with 166 instructional days. So this is one, you know, you're pushing it out a little bit further. You're still got lower student instruction days. However, you don't have a fall break, and students' last day would be in June.
So I can, at this point, if board members would like me to click on any particular option, I can do that. Just kind of a quick summary. Options 1, 3, and 5 have shortened fall breaks. Option 2 and 4 have a full week for fall break. And then the start dates just go across. So option 1 has a student start date of the 25th. Option, which we would struggle to have any type of orientation with that. Option 2 is student start date of August 27th. Option 3 and 4 are student start dates of August 31st. Just one has a short break and one has a full fall break. And then option 5 has a September 8th start date.
Okay, any comments from the board? Did everybody have a chance to look at the other options before the meeting? Because I know originally we had.
No, not in detail. I wasn't able to do so where I am at this moment. But I have had lots of contact about no fall break.
Okay, meaning that the parents don't want to have a fall break, or we do?
Oh, you're on mute, Mr. Stanfield.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Can you hear me now? I'm not even AT&T. But anyway, no, they have shared many concerns that they would like to have a fall break because many have already scheduled to be off that week or whatever they normally would do. And that's even coming from some of our school administrators.
Okay, and you know, on the opposite end, I've had a lot of parents that are very concerned that we're going to go to school for 5 or 6, 7 weeks, and then the kids are going to be out of instruction for possibly a whole week. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing.
Mm.
Well, now that we've delayed school.
Yeah.
Well, if we delay school.
Yeah. I think I like the idea of doing the full fall break, because I think our teachers may need a brain break in the middle of it and a time to like rejuvenate and, you know, be with their families and things. I like the idea of the full fall break. I'm wondering though about pushing it all the way back. I tend to like, I think option 2, because it would still start students on the 26th, and then maybe save those extra 2 PD days and add them back whenever we know we reopen, so that teachers can get back and get ready for things. I don't know. Would that be helpful, Dr. McDonald? I mean,
You're muted.
On mute.
Okay, am I off now?
You're good.
When I'm sharing my screen, I don't have a full screen in the other area, so I apologize. So with the option 2 that Mrs. Finke just talked about, the 26th is teacher opening day and the 27th is student opening day. One of the things we can do, since we don't know when we can switch back to in-person, we can very easily, when we make that decision, so cases are decreasing, we're able to do this again, we can change a day from a student day to a teacher planning day. We have snow days. We have to go back and adjust that calendar at the end. So we can very easily make that adjustment. And in fact, I can make that call just like I do on snow days. So I do agree that if we switch from 100% virtual back to in person, the teachers will need a couple of days. So we could make that change. And that is one reason why you as a board made the decision to start after August the 24th. So we would have that flexibility.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that number, just as a reminder, because we adopted the 7-hour instruction day, our minimum requirement's 152 days. So any of the calendars you have here down to 152 are all bank days that we can convert as we need to.
Okay, Troy, do you have any concerns or?
Not really concerns, but there's a couple of these calendars that I haven't really even looked at to see, because I know a couple of them had just popped up. So I'm still trying to look at these and trying to figure out. I do like option 2, but I'd still like to try to figure out some of these other ones that I haven't looked at.
Option 4 was the option 2 and 4 are the newest calendars. They keep, I believe, the same end date, so there's no change on the end date. So the difference in those two is the number of instructional days. So option 2, as you see, I have it clicked, is 164 instructional days. Option 4 is 162 instructional days, and it actually just starts, I believe, well, they're both 164. So only that one is 162. So it's a difference in the student days. Even though one starts on the 31st and one starts on the 27th, the end date, the May ending day, stop is the same. And did I say that right, Mr. Ballard? Yeah. The only one that puts us to June 1st as a closing day is the September start date.
Dr. McDonald, do you have a recommendation for us?
I'm
not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm a little bit worried that the August 24th, since we've switched to online, may be a little too soon. Not because I'm going to be ready by the 25th, because I know that's only 2 days difference, but I want to make sure that we have time to have that optional orientation for parents if we can. So I think the 2 extra days would actually help us with the orientation. So my suggestion would be August 27th or after, which is option 2 or after. But then I have heard from a large number of individuals since we did that virtual question and answer, and I presented the calendar with the shortened fall break, that have stated that they want the full fall break. And it's been for a lot of things like, this is going to be difficult. We're going to be a little stressed. We need the brain break. We need that. So because I've heard from so many about fall break, my recommendation would be either option 2 or 4. And I'm okay with either one because they look very similar. So there's the difference is the number of student days.
Well,
I've got to go along with Troy. I think the fact that some of these options were presented after 3 o'clock this afternoon, not all board members have had a chance to truly look at these things and take advantage of being able to, look at, and make decisions. One thing that has always been hardships for board members is when things are presented at the last minute, because we don't get a chance to actually be able to look at them thoroughly, and I want to make the right decision. I still question about the fall break, and maybe I'm the only one on that, but I also think that starting on the 31st or even the 8th might be prudent. We have a lot that we have to get accomplished. And no matter what, we're going to need some time. So, unless the board's in total agreement, I really would like to not make this decision today and be able to revisit this. Go ahead.
see, I haven't had I didn't get to study them a whole lot, but I can look at them, and maybe that's because that's part of what I do, man. I see I can recognize that calendar, but I would have to go along with Lori on this one, and I'm ready to make my decision because I would go with option 2.
Then option 2, just to state again exactly what is it? What day do we start? What day do we end?
Option 2 starts, let me share my screen again.
26th or 27th. And
Yeah, it starts on the 26th. I'm going to share it one more time. Hold 1 second. Okay, option 2 is up. Is it showing?
yes, it is.
Okay, so option 2 had the 26th in yellow is opening day for staff. The 27th, August 27th is opening day for students. Closing day for students would be May the 20th. Closing day for staff would be May the 21st, and it has a full fall break.
And that calendar puts us almost right back to what we normally would look like.
Very, very close, yes.
And I agree with that, but also I feel like the optimum starting date should be the 31st. Trying to get kids in and out of building for orientation, I think is going to take a whole lot more time than we think. And I think an additional week just to be able to concentrate on that is something that we need to do. It's not any doubt that the staff can't do what needs to be done, but also I want to make sure that if we are going to take that option where kids are going to come into the building, be with their teachers for a bit, that we're going to be able to get it done with such zeal and zest that we know it's been done correctly. So that's what I'm looking at, is starting on the 31st. That seemed to be the recommendation that we got beforehand from superintendent and administrators. And I really would like to go on that. My feeling about the fall break, obviously the rest want it to be a fall break complete, and I can live with that, but I really feel like we need to start on the 31st.
Well, if it's okay with the board, I would like to offer a motion.
Okay.
I would like to offer a motion that we accept option 2 for the school calendar for the 2021 school year.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Lori, did you say something?
I didn't hear you, Glenn.
Sorry, I said second, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I just, as a parent, I'm ready to get these kids doing something, and, you know, they need to get engaged. And I think we have another, I mean, not that I want to change it again, but I'd rather, it's 2 days difference, and we have another meeting in early August. And if we need to push it back 2 days, then we could, once the teachers and everybody start planning. And then if they can't get it done, then I'd rather move it at that point. But I'd rather try and get our kids back learning as quickly as possible. And those two extra instructional days, I think, are needed after the long break we've had.
And
that's just putting my experience out there. I mean, I'm looking at that. I mean, that looks to me to be the best calendar.
And I also like starting towards the end of the week as a parent, to give them 2 days before they have to get into a full week.
Well, and like I said, I just want to say that, you know, I know we have a motion and a second. I still think the 31st is more important. I just think that we're asking a lot. I know everybody can say we can get all this accomplished. I don't want to go back in 2 weeks and say, now we're going to have to start a week later. I really would like that we stress that we compromise and do the 31st, and then keep the fall break in there, and then we can move on.
We have a motion and a second for option 2. We need to vote on it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Teresa, will you call the roll, please?
is Teresa still on? Let me.
There she is.
I'm here.
Okay.
Mr. Ball, how do you vote?
Option 2.
Okay. Mr. Becker?
No, I vote no.
No, okay. Ms. Finke?
Yes.
Mr. McCowan?
Yes.
And Mr. Stanfield?
Yes.
Okay, we have a 4-to-1 vote. It's the majority rules. I will make sure that I personally follow through, and it's positive. We've made a decision, and the district can move on. So I appreciate everybody wanting to make things happen, and it is important. So like I said, I don't want people to view my vote as being against anything. It's just that, like I said, I just felt like we need to have that extra week. So, all right, let's move on to item 7, Mrs. Fisher, athletic update.
So I don't know that Mrs. Fisher has a complete update prepared at this time. I just asked her to be on in case there were any questions. I know that we had athletic discussion. You approved the athletic plan for practice, which of course was meeting all of the KHSAA guidelines. And so we just wanted to briefly, let you know that we do still have students practicing, that we are following guidelines. Those guidelines changed in July to have students were in pods, but then once we went to July, more pods could kind of practice at the same time. And so with our governor moving back to the smaller groups of 10, I did ask Mrs. Fisher to, if they were indoors in a small space, to move them back to the group of 10. But of course, if they're outside, still following what is the KHSAA guidelines. But I do want to compliment that we do have, as far as cleaning procedures, students that are wiping down equipment after they exercise, and our custodians are doing a great job making sure those facilities are cleaned in between use. So I just want to know if there's any questions from the board, or if Mrs. Fisher, do you have some additional information that you want to give the board as well?
I was just going to say we have 8 or 9 teams, high school teams that are practicing right now. We only have 2 middle school teams. Those middle school teams are teams that would be considered in season if we had, started a typical season on July 15th. we didn't, but those teams have continued. They'll continue to practice in hopes of having a season and being prepared when that opens. Our kids and our coaches alike, I mean, everybody's doing the best they can and following those guidelines, and it seems like things are going, pretty well.
And we do have some cases. We've had some, not cases of COVID, but some situations where we have some different individuals quarantined. But as we heard Mrs. Finke state, at the beginning during board comments, we kind of have that all over the place for various reasons. So they're not necessarily connected to our practices at this, didn't originate at our practices at this time, I guess is what I should say. So anyway, we're open. So Mrs. Fisher's here. We're open to questions from the board.
So is there any date that the high school association has put out, whether, they're going to play any games or anything like that? Have they said anything?
We, our instructions, our latest guidelines go through August 2nd. The Board of Control will meet that week that leads into August 2nd. The 2nd falls on a Sunday, if I remember correctly, and we'll have additional guidelines after the Board of Control meets then. Commissioner Tackett has been very positive in saying, we'll play. It may not look like what we're used to, but we're looking like we will play.
I'm glad that, you see statewide, you're seeing that, one team has gotten, been infected. And so I'm so glad that we put these safety precautions. And I do like the idea of moving the indoor back to the mandated 10, people, and just keeping things as, by the book as we can. I know sports are important for these kids' mental health too. And so keeping those going as much as we can is important. Unfortunately, it's been brutally hot. So we've had a couple practices canceled for that, but thank you for keeping us updated. But what is the protocol? And I should have remembered this, like if someone does test as the positive, is the whole team contacted, like everybody, or is it or is that the health department?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yes, if we had a positive case, if we had whether it be a coach or a student athlete, on the screening form say they're positive, or they just let me know before they were in a screening process, we would contact the health department and they would tell us what to do from there.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for Dr. McDonald or Mrs. Fisher? Sounds like it's all going very well, and I appreciate your efforts, Lisa, and I know it's not been easy because there's just a whole lot going on, and keeping track of kids and coaches and making sure everybody's in compliance is truly a big deal. So do you have any other comments that you want to make?
I would just say, it's been a collaborative effort. I mean, it's been everybody working together to make sure that we're doing the things we need to do to keep the kids safe and, everything cleaned up and ready for them to go. But yeah, so far, so good for us.
Excellent.
Is there anything that you need from us as a board?
Not currently.
All I need to know.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're going to keep that option open. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you all don't mind, let's move on to our reports. Our financial statement report is up for discussion. Mrs. Osborne.
You should have an attachment for the month of June, the finance report. You'll see that our beginning balance for the month of June was $4,839,102.63. Our total receipts coming in was $1,646,451.73, and our total disbursements were $3,309,625.47. That left us a balance of $3,175,928.89. Also on that first sheet, you'll see where it's broken down by fund and with the bank reconciliation at the bottom. Page 2, you'll see the expenditures.
Can I stop you just real quick?
Absolutely.
Are we under 8A?
Are we what?
Yes, we are.
8A, is that right?
Yes.
Am I the only one? I don't have that in my e-meeting.
Oh, well, and yes, it's there, but hold on a second and I can share my screen as well. So let me get this pulled up and I will.
Hey, Wade, are you logged in to e-meeting? In your upper right-hand corner, there should be a button that says secure. Are you logged in secure?
Yes, it says secure.
Huh, that's weird. It's up there for me. I had to refresh, but it was there. Okay.
Okay, maybe I should refresh. I just did. She's got it right here. Thank you, Dr. McDonald.
You can continue, Mrs. Osborne. This is the first page that she just went over.
That's the first page. The top, Mr. Stanfield, just so you'll know, that's our munis trial balance. We take our beginning balance, add in our receipts, take out our disbursements, and then we get a total. Then we break it down by fund, so you can see how much of that money is general fund, fund 2, fund 21. We break all that down, and those two numbers should match or total to be the same. Then in part 3, we balance with the actual bank statement. So you'll see for the month of June, we had a bank balance. We had still some outstanding payroll checks and AP checks. We have those each month. We had one outstanding deposit. We had another debit that had come in, but it wasn't showing on the bank statement yet. And then we had a couple of return checks that we're working on. So if you see, that just shows where we balanced with all those 3 parts of our finance report. And if you'll go to the next page, this shows our expenditures. Up at the top, you'll see claims. That's for accounts payable. We list all the checks in order, and those are always double checked. So like at the end of the month for May, the check was $578,794. We always make sure those are numerical in order, so we're not missing anything. Those are the totals for 5 AP runs paying the bills through the month of June. Down at the bottom, you're going to see a lot of payroll numbers. And the reason is, as a school district, we annualize everyone's pay. We pay on 24 checks, and the law requires that we get that money to them by June 30th. So you'll see all those summer checks in there. And they usually have an S in front of them. That's just the way we keep up with their summer checks. And then we have a couple of little extra payrolls because right as the month of June ends, we may have some late little timesheets coming in. We want to get as much into this school year as we can that belongs in this school year. So this, of course, this is a big amount for this month, which is common in June. We paid out $3.3 million in expenditures. The next page is our receipts. You'll see all of those that we've received for the month. I apologize, it's so small. I'm just in the habit of trying to get it all on one page. That lists everything we've received in for the month. The total on it is 1.6 million plus a little, but it breaks it down into tax collections, what we receive from the state for, let's just say, utility tax or our nickels, our SEEK money. And so we have those listed. And then the last page is our bank statement. I always give you a copy of it because then you can compare it yourself to the front page to make sure the totals match.
And so, Mr. Stanfield, when you refresh e-meeting later, if it's not there, I will email this directly to you. I don't want to pull up the last page with our account number.
Thank you.
Great. Teresa, can I ask you, our anticipated balance that you all had worked on for June 30, we are substantially above that. And I guess, is that through reductions in expenditures, or did we just not get lucky? But obviously you all worked very hard on the budget.
We have, Miss McDonald has been great in looking for ways for us to cut back. We've tightened the purse strings definitely. This is not the final total because, you know, we're closing out the year this week. Of course, we'll have our AFR come out and all of that, and that'll show more accurate numbers on how we've done for the year. But yeah, we've all just made a team effort to get together and just, you know, cut back where we can.
Well, it's obviously paid off. Yeah, Tammy, I'm sorry.
Oh, so late in the fall when we saw, we're making some predictions on where we were going to land at the end of the year. We did quite a few things, including cutting out any type of overtime. When we had positions to where someone retired or they left the system, we did not refill those positions, including, you know, a couple of positions here at the central office. And so I would estimate, and Ms. Osborne, I'm guessing at this point, so you can definitely correct me if I'm not close, but I would estimate that we saved close to $300,000 or more this year by tightening up considerably in our district. And I'm going to give kudos to all of our administrators, our building principals, and all of our staff across our district that picked up extra responsibilities when we did not rehire certain positions.
Okay. Anybody else have any concerns or questions? Or go ahead, Lori. Did you?
I just was going to make a motion for the approval of the financial report as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second to accept the financial report as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So Mrs. Osborne, you're up again.
Okay, the next thing is all of our bills for the month. And I usually try to pick out 2 or 3 that I find interesting. The first one is on page 4. You're going to see from Bluegrass Recreational Install, there's a bill for $7,420. That's where we were moving playground equipment from Jenny Rogers to Tolliver. I know playground equipment's been a big topic of discussion for us. And we've always been excited to see what all's going on with that. So there, you will see that one on page 4. The next one, I've got a bill on page 11 to KSBA. We have Medicaid billing and they provide a service to help us with that. And that's what we pay each year for that service. And then I usually try to pick out some type of utilities or, you know, a common bill just to remind everyone what the expenses look like. This month I've picked out our Rumpke Waste Services. If you'll look, it's on page 15. It's $558.40. That's a monthly charge we pay for all the schools.
That's not bad. So does anybody have any comments or concerns or anything concerning the report? I find them always interesting. So we need a motion, please.
I make a motion for the approval of the payment of invoices totaling $319,282.63 as submitted.
Okay, need
Second.
So that was Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. All those in favor of the motion to accept the payments to vendors, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next on the agenda is the consent items. We need a motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve all consent items as presented without discussion.
Second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to accept the consent items without discussion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And we need now a motion to adjourn.
I don't know. Can I ask this question? Somebody asked, do we still want our parents to fill out the surveys?
Yes, please, because
Yes.
there's questions in there about food service and questions in there about internet connectivity. And we hope that Kentucky gets a handle and our numbers go down and then we're back in school very quickly. And we need to plan for that on that in person, and we need the answers to those numbers. So please,
Okay.
please fill it out.
All right, so we still need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. It was a great meeting.
Thank you.
See you all
Have a good
soon.